Welcome to our Over It podcast. I'm your host or co-host, Kristan Kershaw, and joining me is Suzanne Kullberg. Today we've got a really juicy topic, and is the coaching industry a pyramid scheme? Well, there's a bit to that, right? Because, Suze, the coaching industry is unregulated at its core. And so someone can call themselves a coach no matter what training they've done. They could have got a $10 course off Udemy or wherever, really. Or they could have done years worth of developing skills and heaps of interpersonal things and like different techniques and be really, really experienced and qualified. But how do you know that it's not just some big sell? And because I'm sure heaps of the listeners may consider, well, I wouldn't mind getting some coaching, but how do I know that they're really going to be able to help me? How do I know it's not just some big money suck, right?
It's the great question. And there's two ways or things to consider from approaching this. The first is as a consumer. So whether you're a listener who is looking to purchase coaching or hire a coach. And the second is, I'm sure we've got lots of fellow coaches who also listen to our podcast. Shout out to you guys. And, whether you're looking to invest in another training and, adding a tool to your tool belt, is it worth your time, money, and energy in that program as a participant? So it's a fabulous topic because we see so many ads promoting the dream, the laptop lifestyle, the work, part-time, make money in your sleep, passive income, one size fits all, funnels, like, you make something and then suddenly you're a millionaire. And, the harsh reality is it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of the time people might be naturally drawn to it because there's someone who wants to help others. And you may already be, again, no matter which one you fit into, as far as, hey, you might be looking for coaching yourself, but thinking one day you might want to do a course as well. Like there's lots of different ways to look at that. But you might be going, I talk to people and I see a change in them so much already. I'd really like to do a course in this to then one day help them. So this is where we're talking to you from that point of view of just be aware, because the adage of if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. It really can ring true for this as well. And that's not to say that there aren't some great courses out there which might cost a significant investment, which can be absolutely life-changing and truly be a great course. Or there can be some that are more budget friendly that may teach you some really good things, but that's not going to make someone a great coach necessarily either.
And also too, sometimes people are, I'm trying to think of the word. So one of the very first coaches I worked with as a client, so I was a client long before I became a coach, and some of you may be both. Like I'm a coach, but also have coaching. Like I'm going to be lifelong working with the coach personally. They said they had worked with somebody quite high up in the industry, like a really well-known name. And I took that to mean had worked with them, as in had trained, like when you say trained under them, to me, that they would know who you are. Later, I turned out that they'd read their book. Now, in my way of looking at things, but then again, I don't think people are being deliberately nefarious, but it's like, what is the definition of have worked with? Like if someone says, I've worked with Suzanne Kullberg, in my point of view, I would know who you are. Like, oh yeah, hi, Kristan. But if you've read my book, that wouldn't be working with me because that's reading my book. It's a great book, by the way, shameless plug. But, what is the thing that you're investing in? And if you're going to ask what kind of training have they done? Like sometimes, I'm thinking FBI badge type energy, like, you flash the badge. People could literally flash the certificate, but hell, you can make a certificate on Canva. It ain't that hard. Even me with my very limited tech skills could probably handle that. So I think what we were trying to talk to here is unveiling or behind the scenes, like Wizard of Oz style, of something that is an unregulated industry, because coaching is fabulous. And I really believe I'm passionate about taking people from where they are to where they want to go, but within the scope of what you're capable of helping with. And when you're not capable, knowing when to refer out or refer to a different service, like, therapy, counseling, is something else entirely.
Yeah, for sure. And there are some great organizations out there who do coaching programs where they, for instance, you might hear of an opportunity to work with someone who's just doing some test runs, some trial as a part of reaching their certification. So that back, it's quite scary for me, but at the time of recording, nearly 6 years ago, I was about to embark on doing a course in becoming a life coach. And it was a 5-day, very intensive course, and it was transformative for me at the time. It was being done parallel to me also learning the RCP consulting side of things as well. So it was a very intense part of my life generally. But we did that 5-day intensive, and then 7-day might have been. And then we had weekly coaching for 11 weeks after that. And within that time, I also then went and did it like a practical thing where I sourced people that I knew, many of them friends, and I did practice runs. But I was fully upfront going, this is a practice run. You're under no obligation to have to work with me after this, but it was a way for me to practice my skills. So sometimes you might hear of things like that. And we're not here to say that they're not a real, what do you call it?
Coaching session?
Yeah, it's not a real thing or whatever, but the people will normally, and what I love is, will say, I remember myself, this is to help me learn and to get my skills up. I'm not going to say that I have every T crossed and dotted I's done, but I'm learning my skill. And that can be a great way that you may come across an organization, both as someone that may want to get coached, but also to see the process of gaining those skills for someone if they're considering doing training, because it gives you a little taste.
Sorry to interrupt. You know what comes to mind when I think about that? Apprentice hairdressers. Like if you go to a hairdressing studio and salon, parlor, whatever they call it, and they have a trainee there, they'll say, $10 haircut or discount because we're having our apprentice or whatever, and then how far along they are. So a lot of the coach certifications, is the one you mentioned, I've done lots, but 2 really big coaching programs, both of which one of them required 50 hours and the other one required 80 hours. And one of them was unpaid because it was for, brand new coaches. And then, the people knew that they were getting the coaching for free in exchange for feedback or, whatever it is. And in the other one, because it was an advanced certification, like on the back of something else, we could do them free or paid. I personally did them paid, but I let people know it was a discounted rate because I was practicing some new techniques. So there's something about, I think with anything about transparency. And, not saying that you have to give your work away or discount your work if it's new. Like if you're solid and you're happy to keep the prices, like that's the individual's choice. But because like there was another one, like a modality I have not trained in is kinesiology.
There is one.
There is one. Kinesiology, shout out to my kinesiologist friends out there and listeners if we have any. And I think one of the downsides sometimes of seeing a trainee or person, learning a skill is we can get a not clear picture of the modality because we've been with a trainee. So basically what happened was I knew very little about kinesiology. My friend was like, hey, I'm training to be a kinesiologist and I need to do so many practice sessions. Are you interested? And I was like, and she told me what it helped with. And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay. And anyway, the whole time she's like, can't get a balance. Have you had kinesiology, Kristan?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so I left the session thinking, holy crap, I'm unbalanced. Like, all jokes aside, like it was not I didn't leave feeling safe or taken care of or looked out for. So what I loved, especially in my advanced certification that we did, was, being mindful of where you leave the client and the words you use. It takes me back to medical school days when we're learning to examine someone, like when you're learning to examine a belly or, a breast, any part of the body that you're examining for lumps, bumps and things. If you go back because you don't know what you felt because you're still learning or whatever, that patient is suddenly imagining cancer. Like you can see their brain go there, but to say to them, I'm really new at this, I'm, just whatever, so that they know, like, please don't panic. And you have your consultant there or you have your person there. So sometimes, with the coaching industry being unregulated and not often having the higher up there, because it's often recorded for that person to watch in their own time, there isn't that level of safety because, I left that whole thing thinking A, kinesiology was a quack, and B, I'm unbalanced. It didn't leave me feeling good about that as a potential thing as a client going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And that leads me into the next section. So my experience was very transparent, very much, I've gone away to do a course, I've come back with some great tools to then apply, and then learning how to apply them with clients. And it was a process over time. It was like a 6-month support thing. Then you get programs that train people to have a script where they then go and friend everybody on Facebook that they can find wherever without, so for anyone who wants to become my friend on Facebook, if we don't know each other, you can see on my profile, and every now and then I bump it now. It was a good couple of years ago I recorded, it comes from kindness. I don't become friends with everybody who sends me a request on Facebook. If I have a true connection with them, whether it's through work, potentially, kids, whatever, maybe. But if you just cold call, so to speak, if you just become my friend and you haven't watched the video where I say, hey, this is reserved for people close to me or people who I have built a rapport with, then that's an automatic no. And so, because it's my space, right? I don't mind connecting with you through my business page on Facebook or my business email or whatever for work-related things. But if you're not my friend or connection, then that's my boundary on my personal space. So if I get people who friend me on Facebook and I look at their profile and they've got multiple coaching things, or they've got inspirer of freedom, I know what's likely to come, right? They'll either hit me up with a private message soon after saying, do you want some more spare time or whatever? And it's really slimy. It's not cool. And it's like they want to stalk my profile for a while and then wait until they go in for the proverbial kill to go, yeah, here's a training thing. I'd love to work with you. It's only going to cost you this much.
Here's an opportunity I think would be wonderful for you.
So if someone hits you up and you don't know them, and you have even if you've got mutual friends, because that's the other thing, I look and a lot of them have got mutual friends who are all in the coaching industry. I'm like, please, if you're considering both, if you're in this kind of realm and you're doing this to people, you're turning people off. Build rapport in other ways. There are so many other things that you can do. But if you're the recipient of this, it can make you feel really nice that someone has approached you and said, hey, I see we've got this in common or whatever. And not to say the person themselves is not kind or genuine or whatever on some level, but that message at that time is more than likely going to be something that's scripted, that may not have really great deep connection time, and can end up, well, we can start with this really cheap thing and here's this big package, but you don't have to go there now. We've got payment plans. We'll come back to that later. Just worry about.
Actually, I'm going to jump in here because, we titled this is Coaching a Pyramid Scheme. Another one of my early introductions, and I won't not name the company because, liable and stuff. But back in 2017, just after I worked with the other coach who trained with this famous person, i.e. read their book, they had a free weekend. So it was like a free, weekend that you could attend. So my friend and I attended. I can't English today, but I'm sure I trust you guys, understand what I'm saying, picking up what I'm putting down. And then from there, the upsell to that was $3,000. And they were good. They were really good at selling that. I remember in the break ringing my husband, who was like, no, we are not buying this. Thank goodness. Shout out to Jeremy. He's got the best boundaries known to man. And my friend bought it. And then there was a series of weekends. I can't remember if there was 3 or 4 of them. And on the third one, so the second to last, whether there was 3 or 4, they're allowed to bring a friend for free, because they'd bought it. So my friend brought me, which, thank you so much. I really appreciated it. And that was slick. So the upsell from that one was 10 grand. And I was sitting there, I was a little bit more savvy. This is like a year later and a bit more things under my belt. My friend once again purchased that. And then went to this 10 grand. It was a 2 or 4 day thing. And it's funny, when she was at that, I was also attending a coaching thing for a certification I was doing. So we'd shared accommodation in the city together. And I remember the first night we were back and we were having dinner together. And she was telling me about the third level of this thing, which was, how much do you reckon, Kristan?
$30,000?
50. And anyway, by this stage, I was like, get out. And she was like, oh, well, I could just sell my car. Like, I don't really need it. I'm like, don't. And usually I'm a little bit less, forceful. But I was like, okay, pause. How much return on investment have you received from this already? Like, how much money have you made? Oh, nothing yet, but I just need this next level. And, we had some back and forth. And to this day, she says, thank goodness for you, Suze. Like, I would have sold my car and got a couple of credit cards and maxed them all. But then she did know someone who did go to this. And then there was another upsell again from that, which was like a private weekend on some fancy island out in, helicopters and whatever. I was like, when does it end? And what do they actually get from this? Is there any actual tangible trainings or skills or whatever, or is it basically some kind of weird, like, what do you call it? Golf club? What do you call it? Country club, like membership.
Oh, yeah.
There was different levels of bands that they got and ties that they got showing how much they'd invested. And it was almost some kind of weird kind of cultish vibes, if I'm honest.
And this is the thing, right? The takeaways there aren't like the actions to do. Your friend didn't get enough from that to be able to be starting her coaching business or to be confident in it at any rate. And I have a hunch, I think you may have told me before, but I have a hunch on who, like the organization and stuff that's connected to. And I've been to one of the early level ones of that. And the speakers that they can have at some of these events are really interesting and you can take away a lot from it. But interwoven with the transformational speeches are upsells into potentially multiple other things, at least at the one I went to.
Run to the back of the room, limited things. As soon as you have to run, and as soon as it's limited, like, once again, I don't knock me a limited time offer. At the time of recording this, I have a limited time offer out. Like, for the people on my list, there's no point saying it because it'll be gone by the time it goes live, but it is limited time. If you don't action it today, you miss out. Like, boundary held. But these things are never limited. They're just to get you out of the chair or to get you over the line, because guess what? Yeah. Tomorrow they'll do the same spiel in a different state, or you'll get an email going, oh, I know you were interested. So guess what? We've opened more spaces. Like, an expiring offer is only expiring if it actually expires and has a real deadline.
Absolutely. And and it can really paint the big dreams. And again, that's not to say that there are some coaches that genuinely can offer you. And like Suze and I, right? We offer in our own coaching that we can help keep you accountable, help teach you things about yourself and your situation and all that. They're not promises that we make lightly and it's limited by what you're willing to push through on a ceiling too. Like, it's a push-pull, right? In a coaching relationship, it is you as a coach provide guidance and mentoring, and you're a bit more objective because you're not deep in the hole potentially where your client might be, and you're giving them lifelines to help them help themselves out. But if you're being promised all these big shiny things of, lifestyle things and whatever, you really need to have caution, because those can be pyramid schemes or can expect more and more and more. And also, I'd say to that end, if it seems very much like they're promising you a lot and they're not saying about what you need to contribute beyond money, that's where you start to go. Because any coaching relationship, it's you are dancing a tango with your coach. It is not just the coach. These companies can be preying on the fact that you want the silver bullet to help fix your problems. Whereas in any coaching relationship, you need to be ready to do some work as well. It's not one-sided.
I love that. So the difference, I think, because Kristan and I both agree that, coaching isn't a pyramid scheme, but it can be seen as one, or, in certain circumstances. But the point that you're really saying to there, how I would describe it is this a fit? because coaching isn't like, here, I'm going to sell you a wedding dress or a wedding cake or whatever, and you part with the cash, and then I bestow my brilliance onto you, and huzzah, you are fixed, fairy godmother style. A, you're not broken, but B, is it a fit for the co-creation? Like, beyond the money, what is the time expectancy? Because that's the other thing too. I remember my friend, when she bought these different levels, as I said, it was way back 2016 now. We had CDs back then. It was before everything went full digital. And she got all these hours and hours and hours of CDs. So, and then there was some sort of guarantee, but it was really fine line if you read it, how she had to do whatever to access this guarantee. But do you have time to listen to 50 hours of CDs in the next? Because I think the money back guarantee was only 28 days. So do you have time to listen to 50 hours of CDs in 28 days and action all the stuff that needs to have been actioned to potentially, because, basically I like to say, don't get sucked in by a money back guarantee. Like, there are legitimate, honest ones, but there are ones at the loopholes. Like, I remember, I don't know if it was you and I were talking about this or someone else, but they did a coach training no, it wasn't a coach training. It was a marketing training to sign clients or whatever. And it was a guaranteed whatever. And to get the money back, it was a very significant investment. They had to have made 100 cold calls, which is probably where some of these weird DMs come in, And the thing is, you had to give that cold call information to your supervisor, leader, trainee. First of all, look at the legalities of that, because that is handing over somebody's private information, their email address and potentially their phone number. Like, do you have permission to share that? That's, whatever. But then if you didn't convert and get the sale, then they had all the details so they could start hounding the person. When does it end?
Yeah. If your gut feel in it is, it feels too good to be true, just don't ignore that, because there likely is someone who will fit your budget, who will be there to help you, guide you where you need to be, who is not going to make empty promises, and who will negotiate with you as far as, what does your package look like? What does your opportunity look like? And it may be in a set format. That's not to say that there can't be levels of rigidity or like structure, but if it's a coach who's really looking to tailor and to work with the clients, then they're going to be going, let's do this because this is going to work towards this. This is going to work towards that. There's not the mystery around it. I mean, obviously they're not doing the coaching before you've made a commitment anyway, because that's boundaries and that's important too. But I really think sometimes, again, the pyramid scheme style coaching is much more likely, oh, well, we'll cover that later. Oh, well, there is no outline. The training that I got was, there was, it's been a while, I think it's a 11 or 12 step sort of thing that we worked through. We were fully upfront right from the beginning what those were. Now, we didn't go into details, but if someone was wanting to understand what they got for the multi-session plan that we were working on, if they were becoming a client, then we were absolutely upfront with what that meant, what the payment options were. Like, there's nothing hidden behind, oh, well, we'll get to that bit later.
Yeah, I love that. So beyond the investment of dollars, the investment of time, like, that's a wonderful question to ask if you don't see it answered anywhere clearly on their resources. And also, they might not say this, like, I don't think even I say this clearly. I do say the time on my website. It says, what's the time commitment for why wait, what I recommend. The investment of energy, because often if it's a pyramid type energy for me, like, what I feel is it's the urgency, do it now, expiring offer, it's never going to happen again, whatever. But like, even though my program is called Why Wait, and the under thing of it is what are you waiting for, there are times when it legitimately isn't the right time for somebody. They are finishing up another program, they are working with another coach, like, they have their time invested somewhere else. Totally come for the next round, because do you have the capacity to get the most from this? And even if there's promises of recordings and stuff, for me, everyone's different. Like, I know some people live purely by the recording and they love that. The live aspect is very important to me as both a facilitator and a consumer. But, to be able to get your coaching on what you've listened or watched, that, to me, that's a large part of why I invest rather than passive products such as, pre-recorded. But, if it's, and one thing we haven't even touched on, and it's kind of like the value add. So say the program is this many dollars, and then they're like, this is valued at 1,000, and this is valued at 5,000, this is valued at 10,000. And you have like, and you might think I'm exaggerating listening to this, but I remember seeing once, not that long ago, I added it up and it was $48,000 in bonuses for this program that was like $997. And to me, I'm like, if it's worth 48,000, why can't you just sell it for that? Like, I love me a good bonus. Like the current one I have right now is worth 500, so that's decent. But I've actually sold it for that, so there's one, and that's an actual thing. But if it's adding up and adding up and adding up, and it's 48,000 for 997, to me that gives me pyramid vibes. What about you?
Yeah, totally. And we haven't even actually, you led me just before that. I was like, we haven't even covered an actual pyramid scheme. Just be aware there are actual coaching things that are like this, where come and learn how to do this. And part of your get rich quick thing, part of your build your business is, oh, well, you'll be able to bring on coaches in your team, and then they'll be able to bring you income that's passive income, and then they'll bring in more. Okay, so there's pyramid schemes, there's multi-level marketing, and there are some very popular things out and around which genuinely can bring you money, where people can make the choice to become part of your business, and it isn't illegal, thing. And they can genuinely, especially a lot of the time, it's marketed at stay-at-home mums or mums wanting to, or carers, anyone wanting to earn some part-time money as a side hustle or whatever. There are some of those which genuinely can bring you additional. Just keep in mind, it's never without needing to put effort in. There's one that I think both of us used to do a very long time ago, which is not multi-level marketing or whatever in the pyramid scheme side of things. But you have to put in work to make that a success. It is not without putting significant effort in, both as an individual or if you want to become a team leader or whatever the term might be at the time. So just keep in mind, we're not saying that none of those things out there, they're not so much coaching, but there's still ways to, here's some easy income for your family. You still need to put work into it, and you soon will realize as you do training and that there is effort that needs to go in.
Whereas the very first training is make a list of everybody you know, and you're suddenly having to DM and cold call someone you haven't seen since high school, and you're suddenly inviting them to some sort of demonstration. If that is within your pleasure, have at it. But if any of it makes you cringe inside from the beginning, or you would not want to be on the receiving end of that, hi Suzanne, haven't seen you since high school, do you want to come? If that makes you want to die inside, then like run at the get-go.
It suits some people and they love it and thrive. And the skills that I learned in what I did a number of years ago, absolutely. But then I never crossed into the slimy, I'm going to cold call everyone. I offered it. If they weren't interested, that's fine.
And I love that though, because you can offer it. Like if you have a platform, everyone has a Facebook account. You have a platform. I often post about my business on my personal profile or things I'm interested in. Shout out to Claire Riley, who recently wrote a book. I posted a picture I shared about that. Here's one you prepared earlier. Like, something like that, that's, legitimate, genuine, and that feels good to me, then yes. But I didn't go and DM 50 of my friends going, hey, Claire wrote a book. Like, who's Claire and what? So it's kind of like how, so that's the other thing too. You don't need to do, like, when you approach these things, teacher's pet kind of energy. You could be like, actually, I would love this aspect, because the organization you were speaking about that both of us were consultants for, they had levels of how much you could invest in how you wanted to provide the product, some of which went down the line of, DM everybody you know and their cousins. And I was just like, and I think don't discount what you learn from some of these things, because sometimes you do trial it and you're like, I tried that and I loved it, or I tried that and I learned why I don't like these things. because even in whatever type of business that you have, like even it's so funny. I was talking to a client the other day, even if you're not in business, you're always marketing something. Like I'm selling my kids this morning on doing their homework. There was no money exchanged, but I was totally selling them on that because the long-term benefits I see of them being able to research and work out things for themselves rather than passively taking on what they've been told, which, you and I have both spoken about on our careers type episode we did.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so much in what I learned. So I didn't cold call anyone, or at least apologies if anyone listens to this who knows me and goes, yes, you did. I don't believe that I did. But I shared what I was passionate about. And there were some people who were also passionate about that, and they found it interesting. And then they did buy from me in that. I was actually, and I say actually in there, I was really successful at what I did. I did it for 4 years, and I sold a notable amount of what I was selling, but I didn't go out there being slimy about it. And I was able to use the skills and the training to take it on in my own realm. And I think that's important for people. It challenged me. It pushed boundaries. And this is a difference, right? If you're being told, I remember there was a multi-level marketing thing, which is still legal, but it was really close to multi-level marketing when my husband and I were pretty young out of uni type days. So we're looking 20 something years ago. And it was, here, sell these products. There's some great cleaning things. There's some great household things and all sorts of stuff that everybody knows it's a household brand. And the kit is just this much. And then you can get discounted stuff for your own use at home. And you can build a business because you can get other people selling it underneath you. It's just passive income, it'll be okay. Well, we didn't know any different. And there were some products that we liked, and that's what we mostly used it for. And we sold bits and pieces to people as well, but that was not us. We didn't have a passion for that. That was not us within us. We weren't even married yet then, it was that long ago. And we've been married 20 years later this year. So yeah, it was a while ago. But whereas the other business that you and I were both in, that was a whole different kettle of fish because it was something that I was passionate about. It wasn't dirty multi-level marketing. It was take the business how you want to take it. And I think a lot of coaches,
that leaning it back to coaching or leading it back to the things, it's kind of like, I think where a lot of us lose sight of is what is the vision for ourselves in creating the thing. So, with the product-based ones, it's like if you sign up as a consultant or whatever, you get the discount and then you can offer the opportunity. They always call it the opportunity to your friends and family. And then somehow, like I did one of those, ended up with a team of over 30 and kind of felt pressured to grow it more than I wanted to. Like it was packaged or sold to me as, here's the stuff you use for your family and you might make a few bucks. And then it became pressure to turn up to these trainings and stuff. And I was like, I didn't have the boundaries that I have now. It'd be a very different experience if that kind of thing happened right now. But in terms of coaching as well, and whether you're wanting to experience coaching as a client or to become a coach yourself, there is a difference between coaching, like coaching the who, meeting the person where they're at, having a truly in-depth space holding, listening, asking questions about their experience, versus trying to pigeonhole them into a script where you ask questions where you're looking for them to answer in a certain way so you can move that script forward. So like, not to knock Udemy or any of these, cheaper platforms, because they do have fabulous things. But, if you're given a bunch of scripts and then the person doesn't answer how you would expect it, and you haven't had some of the bigger level trainings where you're told what to do when the person goes off script, because often we can predict what a person's going to say, but not always. Then you're kind of left in my, you're not balanced kinesiology experience, which isn't good for anybody.
For sure. And that's exactly the direction I was heading, right? Whether we're talking about this multi-level style rather than the other businesses we shared experiences of, but in coaching, you can come along to coaching and then you'll get some more experience and then you can bring a friend along and, up it that way. If you can connect with your coach and they can give you that realistic experience, and with most coaches, you'll be able to book in for a discovery call, or they'll call it different things. Mine is a consult advice call. It's a 15-minute chat for me where people can talk to me and go, are we a good fit? Does it the way we talk with each other, does that feel right? But also go, this is my expectation, as in me as the practitioner. going, this is the testing that we recommend, this is this, I'm available from here, this is what the consult options are. And then you to go, well, I really want to look at this, and I want to understand this. Is this a good match? It's that, again, it's a tango, right? It's understanding the match. If you don't get that opportunity with a coach in some way, then that's something you want to feel secure in this, so that you feel safe, that you don't walk out of it going, oh, am I really going to get my money's worth?
But even on those, like, I reckon we could do a whole episode, because I'm just looking at time. I need to pick the kids up soon, so I'm nothing if not honest. But there's a difference between a legitimate, like, I know your business supporting balance has that, 15-minute, is this a fit? Like, what's shaking kind of call. I think you guys, you call it a discovery call?
Consult advice call.
Consult advice call. But other places where it legitimately is a sales call, and they sell hard and they push all your buttons, and or it's sold as a freebie. Like, it's really interesting. I did one of these as a client for somebody. They offered me a gift. I met them at a networking thing. Very long story short, it was towards the end of last year. It was not a pleasant experience. And because I've trained in a lot of this, like, I know the cues and I know the tells. And when they got to the bit where, like, they're supposed to be really quiet, so then I jump in and ask, well, I wasn't interested. So I was quiet and they were quiet and I was quiet. It was the weirdest thing. And then how they kept trying to sell to me at the end, and there was no permission. There was no, is this a fit? There was no, it was really kind of awkward. And now I do have very strong boundaries. And I was like, basically I'm just not interested. Whole, different experience there. But before, I'd be handing over my credit card like I nearly spent $3,000 that other thing, way back then. And it wasn't even aligned. And that poor friend who I mentioned, who'd spent the $3,000, then the $10,000 and wanted to spend the $50,000, didn't actually end up pursuing coaching, went back to their 9-to-5. And I'm sure that's okay, but she would have made a hell of a coach. Like, and if you're listening to this, you know who you are, and you still will be. I'm holding out the hope. My vision is, I reckon you'll come back into it and you'll smash it. But sometimes people are dissuaded from a career or dissuaded from participating in a modality because of an experience that didn't sit well.
And that doesn't, just to finish that off and round off the session, if you've had a bad experience, like your example with kinesiology or with a coach in the past, please don't let that exclude you from finding your coach. If you still have that niggle that you want to work with someone, or you still have that niggle that you want to work in that, just put the feelers out there, put the energy out there, whatever, of the right fit will come, and be open that may not have been at the right time, the right person, and maybe you've spent money on one of these other coaching schemes and you didn't get anywhere. There can be someone who's sitting there right now ready, who's a beautiful match, who will be a whole different experience. So consider that may be an option.
Did you know, I don't know if we've had this conversation before, maybe we could talk about this on another episode. My very first experience coaching as NLP, like NLP, the modality, I absolutely hated it and swore off it. And then later, another coach I'd hired, they didn't put in any of their marketing that they did NLP. And when we started in the session, I was like, this is NLP, isn't it? And they're like, well, why? Yes. Well, I'm like, I think it's crap. And now, many years later, I am trained in, it's one of my certifications. So don't let an early experience dissuade you from something that could be amazing, because it's not that there's ever any bad coaches per se, but if somebody isn't a fit for you, you can judge a whole modality on one experience, like the kinesiology one, though I have since worked with a kinesiologist, which I loved. But, don't let one experience color that whole industry for you. And, if you've had experience with coaching, it's felt like it's been a pyramid scheme, or it felt like it's been kind of the sleazy DM salesy thing. Not everybody is like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for listening. As always, if you have any feedback, please tag us, please share up the episodes, leave us a rating and review, and we'll see what we uncover next time.
Thanks for coming, listening, or watching.
Bye for now.